Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Venerable the lecturer Ustaz Dr. Kaharudin SIPMHUM as a lecturer of Psycholinguistics for language teacher and all my beloved friends who have time to watch my video. Well, first of all, let us thanks to the presence of Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala who has given us mercy and blessing so that I can complete my assignment. And don't forget to send the salawat to our best Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam who has brought us from the darkness to the lightness until now. So allow me to introduce myself. My name is Riska Febrianti from PBIA, majoring in English Education, Faculty of Tarbiyah and Teacher Training, State Islamic University of Alauddin, Makassar. So, in this opportunity, I would like to answer 8 questions from my assignment 4. So, the first question is, what do you know of language perception and what phenomena can be used to represent language perception? So, my answer according to the case G 1988. In psycholinguistic studies on language perception, various terms used by researchers as synonyms for the word perception include recognition, discrimination, identification, understanding, and comprehension. So, language perception refers to how humans interpret and understand language. It involves the processing of linguistic information, including speech sounds, written words, and the meaning conveyed by language. Language perception is a complex cognitive process that encompasses various aspects and plays a crucial role in communication. So, furthermore, he observes that these terms are commonly utilized to depict phenomena such as word recognition or the ability to grasp the meanings of words, speech signal segmentation, the ability to break down sound into parts or segments for understanding word meaning, including word pronunciation, stress, and intonation. Assessing similarities between two linguistic structures, so the ability to identify the meanings of two different sentences like I am hungry and I really need to eat, and comprehending connected speech. The author argues that language perception and language comprehension essentially refer to the same concept. Substanting this perspective, consequently, the notion in language comprehension can be employed to define the concept of language perception and is believed to fulfill a comparable purpose. Well, we move to the next question. So, what do you know of language perception stage? So, my answer is language perception, according to Warren P. 2013, aims to recognize sounds such as auditory inputs, classify these sounds as words, classify these sounds as sentence, and ultimately arrive at the acquisition of meaning from the interpretation of the message. Thus, he claims that there are 4 phases of language perception, which are as follows. The first stage is called perception, stage for noticing sound elements, phonological stress, intonation from auditory inputs. The second stage is called word recognition, stage from identifying words when perceiving the sounds from the auditory inputs, and the parsing stage, which involves identifying sentence while recognizing sounds in auditory inputs, and the last interpretation stage, which include creating meaning from the interpretation of auditory inputs. Well, we move to the third question. So, in your opinion, is word recognition a complex process? Why? Explain your reason. So, my answer, yes, word recognition is considered a complex process in cognitive science and linguistics. This process involves the ability to visually perceive and interpret written symbols as meaningful linguistic units. Fontenay et al. 1998 8 state that word recognition is a complex lexical process experienced by the mind when receiving auditory input. As long as the lexical process occurs, the mind will attempt to connect the result of sound segmentation, input representation, carried out at the later perception stage with the words stored in the mental lexicon or mental dictionary when the mind finds relevant words to the speech sound heard. This word will become lexical representation. Next, the mind will choose the lexical representation to be used as target words because they correspond to auditory inputs according to Melson Wilson v. 1991. Well, we move to the fourth question. So, what do you know of the pace of word recognition? Explain your answer. So, my answer based on Felder and Taylor 1987, there are three phases involved in the recognition of spoken words. The first is the phase of initial lexical contact. The spoken word recognition process begins when auditory input segmented phonetically and phonologically contacts the mental lexicon, which store words in the mind. These initial context activities relevant words based on linguistic aspects like pronunciation, syntax, semantic, and context. The second is the phase of selection. The mind performs a selection process after initial lexical contact, connection segmented auditory inputs with target words. This process involves distinguishing between words reducing irrelevant words or searching for other appropriate words. The selection process can be influenced by factors such as word frequency, order, and the frequency of lexical items. This process helps to identify the most relevant and appropriate words for the auditory input. And next, the phase of integration. The integration phase in the final mental process in lexical processing, where the mind combines selected word with auditory input, meaning achieving word recognition. This process matches auditory inputs with stored knowledge of lexical entries and considering linguistic aspect like phonological, syntactical, semantic, and pragmatic aspect. Well, let's move to the question number 5. So, what do you know of parsing stage and what process takes place in the stage and what types? Knowledge does the mind need to go through the process? So, my answer is in this context, parsing is a process that assembles words from auditory input, assigning meanings attributes, and constructing meaning from word to sentence level. This type of procedure is referred to as syntactic parsing by Fraser L. 1987, which construct meaning based on lexical and phonological information. So, DAWI 2023 contends that during the parsing stage, the mind engages in a process referred to as sentential processing, which the mind tries to understand the relationship between words in sentence and obtain meanings from the representation. Sentences processing requires knowledge of language grammar. For this reason, Abdallah AHEH and Al-Nadaf EAE 2022 explained that at the sentence processing stage, conceptual representation of sentences are formed using two types of knowledge level, namely knowledge of articulatory encoding refers to knowledge of identifying prosodic factors from auditory inputs such as the emphasis given towards the word stress and the use of pitch to mark differences in meaning or intonation. Furthermore, linguistic encoding knowledge is divided into functional and positional levels. Functional knowledge involves selecting lexical representation and constructing grammatical relationship based on semantic information, while positional knowledge identifies syntactic structure of sentences, including word order, function, and grammatical markers. Well, next question number 6. What do you know of interpretation stage and discourse processing? So my answer, according to Ustaz Kaharudin 2023, the interpretation stage can be defined as a process where the mind is able to show understanding of the speech heard when communicating. In addition, Deng Y and Lin G 2013 state that interpretation refers to the process of representing the meaning in speech of a target language to gain comprehensions. Spark GR and Rep DN 2010 are of the opinion that whether mind is working for comprehending language products such as speeches or text, it means that the mind is doing discourse processing. Well, move to the next question is what do you know of the tripartite model in the interpretation stage? So, my answer Fraser 1987, Spark GR and Rapp DN 2010 specifically state that the mental processes that occur in discourse processing can be explained using the tripartite model. The model describes three levels of discourse processing. Namely, the first is the surface level is the most fundamental stage where the mind gathers phonologically relevant words and organizes them into sentences based on the auditory inputs. And the second is the proportional levels involves the mind encoding language, meaning, stroke, and morphosyntactic order connecting context knowledge with linguistic content, and constructive inference about discourse through verbal exchange. And the last is the situational or mental levels involves the mind effectively inferring meaning from speech, combining linguistic knowledge and discourse context in auditory input for successful comprehension. And we move to the last question. So, in sum, can you explain the perception stage as whole? So my answer is perception is a multi-step process. The two major processes receiving stimuli and making meaning of the stimuli can be broken down into smaller steps. The first is stimulation or understanding stimuli access. The second is organization or comparing existing knowledge with the stimuli, and interpretation, making meaning of the stimuli. Next, memory, storage of one's experience about the stimuli. And the last is recall, using the storage knowledge in the future when the mind goes through the interpretation stage, and we can observe the process of grasping meaning. Additionally, it is essential to identify which part of the brain is responsible for decoding or understanding spoken language. Wernicke's area and Broca's area are the brain regions accountable for language comprehension or interpretation, while Broca's area is believed to be responsible for transforming speech into meaningful expressions, and Wernicke's area is to handle processing auditory input to generate meaningful speech or language interpretation. Cherry K 2023. In simple terms, Wernicke's region primarily manages language comprehension, whereas Broca's region oversees language production. So maybe that's all from me. I'm sorry if any mistake, and Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. See you next time.